Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day, the Sabbath day. May your blessings be with us. We want to speak on your laws and your judgments. May we have your right mind and focus. May we be able to converse and just not impart our opinion only, but allow your spirit and your ruach to guide and direct us. May we be beneficial to those that are listening. Many have read your word, read your laws, but the comprehension may be lacking. So maybe our discussion could give some clarity or even, I guess, entice others to research and gain a greater grasp of your laws and your commandments. So we thank you for this time. Shabbat shalom, blessings and shalom. Hallelujah. Let's go. Okay.
Hallelujah.
All right. Hi, my name is Shanquilla Carter. I got my brother Robbie here. We're going to talk a little bit dealing with Exodus or Shemot 21. I'm going to read through the laws that are there in the judgments and basically just, give a little dialogue between each one. This won't be just your, well, I guess not a message per se, but just a discussion and more so reading the laws. Many of us have heard of their 613 laws or heard of just the 10 commandments, but let's just get into it and talk directly about the laws. Okay. All right. Let me share my screen and let's get it going over here. All righty. All right, there we go. These are the right rulings. Shemot or Exodus 21. These are the right rulings which you are to set before them. When you buy a Hebrew servant, So this was condoning, I guess, a form of servitude. It was not the same as what we dealt with in the transatlantic slave trade with the chattel slavery. We were never to be harsh with our brethren. They were more so, you would put more in the line of a butler or a maid or something to that nature. Okay. He serves or she serves 6 years, and in the seventh, he goes out free for naught. So the seventh year would be like a jubilee. And so you would have possession, but would release. Robbie, got anything to share on that?
You got it, brother. What's interesting is right after the covenant's given, right? 20, Most High comes down on Sinai, gives the 10 commandments, and then he starts the judgments. We'll continue to read, but you'll notice in these, many of these are when or if statements, right? That's really what judgments are. Sort of like, if this happens, this is what's to be done. What you notice is that a lot of these don't even have to apply if you keep the law, if you keep the covenant in that sense. But they start with the servitude laws, interestingly, because we just came out of slavery in Egypt.
Yeah.
Right? Just came out of slavery in Egypt, so you got to know what real slavery or real servitude is. So let's keep on going and see a little bit more about this. Hold on 1 second.
Yep, definitely. You have to put it in line so that they see what they were dealing with was not the righteous judgment of Yah. Okay, and so verse 3, it says, if he comes in by himself, this being the Hebrew, he goes out by himself. If he comes in married, then his wife shall go out with him. If his master has given him a wife, so basically linked him up with a wife that was already in his possession, of the master's possession, and she has borne him sons and daughters, the wife and her children are the master's, and he goes out by himself. Notice, I know I shifted and put he or she, but this is basically focusing on the male, and it looks as if the woman stays there. still his possession, and then the children born becomes the master's because they were born in his house. He still has possession of them. It's pretty interesting there. And if the servant truly says, I love my master and my wife, I love my master, my wife, and my children, let me not go out free. Then his master shall bring him before Elohim, this is Yahuwah, and shall bring him to the door or to the doorpost, and his master shall pierce his ear with an awl, put an earring, a special earring, or awl, and he shall serve him forever. So he's choosing to stay in that household. He's choosing to stay up under that that master. It's not like slavery or chattel slavery where you're forced. He's making a choice. Robbie, anything?
Yep. The real thing is the comparison to chattel slavery, because chattel slavery is what we all know as slavery or captivity, but is not in fact what slavery or captivity is defined as. There's specific rules that come with servanthood, and those rules were broken when it came to the transatlantic slave trade. But one specific rule here is in regard to the actual desire to be servant under a master for a certain period of time, and being treated so well that actually the I guess you could say anxieties that come as being a free person, you don't even want to have to go through with. You'd rather be where you're at. It was sort of like almost like an Abraham and Eliezer situation potentially. And even when looking at these laws, it's important to go to our Genesis history to see different cases where these would have been applied or would not have been applied, and actually influence our understanding. Even like the Hebrew servant, for instance, with Yosef, and see how he was treated and whether this was indeed how he was treated or not. And so this is what the Most High calls right, and contrasting it with things that we've experienced, like chattel slavery and our history as a people, is really important to do. Really, really important to do.
Many people look past Eliezer, the whole idea that before there was an Isaac or even Ishmael, Eliezer was set to be the one that was going to be the heir of Abraham's house. He would have gotten everything. And this was a servant. This servant loved him to the point that he went forth. He could have been, I guess, mischievous or whatever. He's like, oh, I'm trusting you. Go find my son a wife. you know, he could have got him, somebody who would kill him or do something like that. He could have plotted, but Eliezer basically had love for Abraham. He was trusted. He was seen as basically like a son. And most of us, when we look at our household, our children are actually like servants to us. Go get me some water, go get me this, but they have access to the home. They have all the benefits of that. Many people look at servitude as a bad thing, but yet ignore that Yahusha came and himself serving, washing feet, dealing with his disciples in a manner basically that we was thinking this world was unbecoming of a king. But he loved on them and he showed affections toward them by serving them. And many times us that have his word in our mouth in our mouths are supposed to be those same type servant people, but yet in this world we see many people who have the charge or say they're called. They look for worship or want to be worshiped. They want to rule over people, and they don't have the same spirit or ruach as Yahusha. They don't go forth serving. And basically, when you see a person that's willing to serve, usually they have that humility on them that it opens them up to be exalted. Yah is willing to exalt them and use them because the purpose, they won't, I guess, take advantage for their own gain. Many men these days, they go about things for their own gain. Eliezer did not go about for his own gain. He wanted to please Abraham. He even, he hooked Isaac up. He picked out a good wife for him. And most of us, honestly, if we were in a servant position, even when we're at work, we don't give our best, but we don't feel like we have bosses or people over us that give us that type of atmosphere to do that. Abraham seemed to be we see him as righteous. We see him as a father of faith and all these different things. So I can't see him being this wicked master as so many people portray that. Okay, when it switches over, this is what I'm gonna do. I hear a lot of street prophets. I don't even want to call them Hebrews. They go about saying things that's so harsh that it is basically they want to tip the scale. They want to reverse what has happened to us to give it to the other person. And I'm like, how is that just? If it's wrong one way, then it's wrong the other. But if you got something else to add, go ahead. Otherwise, we'll keep moving. All right. All right. I think I was here at 7. And when a man sells his daughter to be a female servant, she does not go out as the male servants do. If she is displeasing in the eyes of her master who has engaged her to himself, then he shall let her be ransomed, sold. He shall have no authority to sell her to a foreign people because of him deceiving her. Mm, ransom. He shall. So basically, she paid for her, but he can't sell her to a foreign people because of him deceiving her. I don't really, I really would need some help with that. Maybe you can help me with that
Yeah.
one, brother.
So let's look up
Mm-hmm.
the male slave. We see the male servant. Allow the male servant serve 6 years. Seventh, he shall go out free and pay nothing. In the sense that he'll go out and not have to pay for his freedom, right? Within the
Yes.
exchange of monetary. Comes in by himself, he shall go out by himself, right? If he comes in married, then his wife shall go out with him. So
Any
here,
children, yeah, any children
mhm,
born in the master's house becomes the master's.
if the wife was given to him by the
Yeah.
master, but it
So
points out that the husband and wife are one flesh once they come in. But the master plays a part in that. But the female servant, of course, would be a little bit different because she's not going to be provided a wife by the master. So that's why she doesn't go out as the male slaves do. And then it gets into the cases of marriage, just like it gets into the cases of marriage with a male slave. So then it says, if she does not please her master who's betrothed her to himself, right? So this is a case of a female servant who serves and then is betrothed to a master to be his wife, and she does not please the master. So now the master may switch up and say, hold on, you're not a wife, you're a servant now. Oh, hold up. Then he shall let her be redeemed. You cannot switch between, you know, treating her as your wife and treating her as your servant, right? So there's a clause in here that allows her to be redeemed. In other words, her freedom purchased and let go, right? So that she will not be in the presence of someone who does not want to be with her, who's not pleased with her. That's why you continue to read. It says she'll have no right to sell her to a foreign people. Again, this is the treatment of a servant, right? If you had a servant, right, then that servant is something that you've acquired that you can make a decision with. But this is not the same case, which is why he's saying that you're not able to sell her to a foreign people since he's dealt deceitfully with her. You treated her as a wife in one circumstance and then a servant in another circumstance. And then it goes into the betrothal with the son. He's betrothed her to his son. He shall deal with her. This is the master still addressing according to the custom of daughters. So now you betrothed her to your son. She's your daughter now. That's how you treat her. She's not your servant anymore in that sense, right? Laws in place to make sure that the people, even in their states of affliction, are treated fairly, right? Because even in the circumstance, you may say in verse 7, and if a man tells his daughter to be a female servant, what man would do that? Like, what man would do that to his daughter, right? Well, there's different circumstances where if a man and his family come into certain hardships, well, everyone's got to work. Everyone
Yeah.
has to work. The kids have to work, you know, and those who are able have to be the ones who are going to go out and do the work. And so these are the different circumstances that come about in the life of our people. But we also, the Most High is also adding um, things to make sure that we're treated right despite our lowly state. And that's why he finishes off with, um, if he takes another wife, he shall not diminish her food, her clothing, and her marriage rights, the typical rights that a woman is entitled to when she becomes a wife. And if he does not do these three first, she should go out free without paying money. So the freedom and the separation of servanthood and marriage, very key in those first clauses of the judgments, and treating everyone fairly and making sure that there's no ability to jump back and forth to see people and call it a different form of a relationship. And that's God's plan for all this stuff.
Now, one thing that I glean from this, we dealing with Israel. So this is a daughter of Zion, regardless if she's in servitude or not. So that means
Yeah.
Yah is supposed to be her covering, but Yah provides a man. This master becomes her covering because he purchased her. And so he can't just uncover her. She's still a daughter of Zion. If he sells her to a foreign land, she's uncovered. They will not treat her as a daughter of Zion. She will
Yep,
not.
exactly.
And so this is a protection for her. I get it. I know that women don't, want to be seen as property, but in this situation, she's property. He's taking her in as a servant. So for one, she's thinking, if she's been treated as a bride, so he's humbled her or sexual, he needs to be dealing with her as such. If he changes that, he still has to provide for her because he's the covering for her, or he took that role, he took that
Mm-hmm.
position. She's still in
Yep,
Zion. She's still a daughter of Zion. He cannot neglect that. Yah has
exactly.
put provision even for a woman in Zion that comes under bondage in Zion. Now, when you
Mm-hmm.
do the chattel thing or whatever, that's a whole different decision or thing going on. But this is
Yep.
between Israel. We're supposed to keep honorable tactics of how we deal with things, and so this will keep her covered and keep her within the household of Israel. But
Yeah.
yeah,
And in comparison to the chattel slavery too, which is very interesting, I always, because there's always people who come up to me and say, like, the Bible supports slavery and this stuff, and I really beg them to go in and read certain stuff like this, the judgments, and take them and apply them as case scenarios, and ask yourself, if the heathens that took us into captivity had applied these laws, would we be in the situation in the state that we're in today? Or did they apply these laws in their treatment of us? It actually says that a man who, we'll get to that in 22, a man who steals a man's food put to death. Hold on a sec.
yeah, yeah, you're right.
Is
Now
that
see,
chattel slavery? Oh,
now something that's very interesting to me. We watch cartoons, we watch movies, and all this stuff, and we understand a limited amount about butlers and maids and stuff like that, and how a family of butlers, Alfred, in Batman or whatever, it's like, his father was a butler. And so you can see almost the same situation that we're speaking of here happening in those with butlers and maids, where their family, are charged to work or be servants to that family. These
mm-hmm.
people are taken care of. A lot of times their condition is better than those in poverty, where they're
Yeah,
almost as royalty or ruling class, even though they're beneath the top ruling class. And so it was
absolutely.
almost a privilege to be in these positions. It was a benefit because you had access to all of the wealth of the master per se. You had access to his car. I'm using with the butler and stuff like that. Back then, they would have been had access to maybe their horse and carriage and stuff like that. They were able to even do things off of work time to bring in wealth for themselves. Many people don't they ignore the things that we learned in secular or this Western history and don't see that a lot of this stuff is stolen from our history. They just straight up just raped our culture, and they make it seem as if is their information and that we're savages, but in actuality it's the reverse. They colonized our information and well
Legitimately, and turned it toward them.
yeah, yeah. Okay, I think you said all right. I think we stopped at 9, and you did kind of elaborate on it, but I'm gonna still read it. And if he has engaged her son to his, he is to do her as is the right of daughters. If he takes another wife, her food, her covering, and her marriage rights are not to be diminished. If he does not do these three for her, then she shall go out for naught without silver. So she's leaving there with no monies, but she's given her freedom, her liberty. He who strikes a man, this is a whole different set of law. He who strikes a man so that he die shall certainly be put to death. So this is basically almost eye for an eye situation. Of course, there's more to situation. There gives some details later on, but that's basically eye for eye almost. 13. But if he did not lie in wait, so he didn't, basically um, premeditate it, but Elohim delivered him into his hand, then I shall appoint for you a place where he is to flee. Basically, that's a sanctuary city, but okay. But when a man acts presumptuously against his neighbor to kill him by treachery, you are to take him even from my slaughter place to die. So we even have today sanctuary cities in this world or whatever, but they had set up sanctuary cities where if somebody was the revenger of blood or something to that nature, you killed somebody and it was not premeditated. There was a fight and it ended up in death. You were supposed to die, but if I guess it wasn't a meant for thing or premeditated, you can run to a a city that was a sanctuary city, and they would allow you to have place there, and you would have to stay there basically to the next high priest. But I it's not there, so I should not even said that. But I just wanted to give that little information. I should
Yeah,
allow.
you're adding the Numbers and Deuteronomy clause is basically the Most High giving the full
Yeah, and
understanding
and
how to put this law into place.
and I don't want to do that. So let me back up. Okay. 15. And he who strikes his father, mm, he who strikes his father or his mother shall certainly be put to death. Now, I can go back since the Ten Commandments said, that was in 20, even though we didn't read 20. That's one of the Ten Commandments. Honor thy father and thy mother. So if you hit your mom, well, actually it says father first, the order. If you hit your father or your mother, you're supposed to be put to death. It ain't even supposed to be a question about it. You basically have violated, the you violated so far. You need to go. And
Yeah, the order.
nowadays we hear about people striking their mothers on a regular basis, fathers on a regular basis. This is something that, some people basically grow up, just having a vision, a dream to do. I'm gonna whoop you when I get older, you know, and to even have that come out your mouth back then would likely probably have brought forth your death. You know, we don't understand that, by doing these things, we've shown contempt also towards the Father in heaven. When you don't respect the authority that He's placed over you in a way that, I yeah, you
And that's
can't
just
do
the
that.
physical. That's just the physical. Continue reading. Continue reading.
Okay, yeah. All right, 16. And he who kidnaps a man and sells him, or if he is found in his hand, shall certainly be put to death.
No, hold up. No, 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 no. Someone told me that the white man wrote this. So, all right, just keep it.
I know. I'm like, because when we look at it, what happened to us? How do we get from over there all the way in Africa, all the way over to North America? You know, somebody snatched us. I'm like, I don't watch Roots, both Roots, and I'm like, those people did not willingly go. And they make it like they were savage people, but we find out a lot of those folks were higher ups, in the communities that they came out of, intelligent people, and they snatched them. I watched 12 Years a Slave. That man was very intelligent, and they snatched him. You know, and so kidnap, man stealer. Hmm. They should certainly be put to death. So it ain't happened yet. Those people that I'm like, yeah, they dead and gone, but the benefit of them, what they stole, is still America has blood on its hands, and people always want to talk about, this is God's land, or this is God's country. Man, that's the biggest joke ever. Biggest joke ever. The entire wealth of this nation came from what? Slavery. Even when you look at how they mistreated the Asians with the railroads. I'm like, the Native Americans. Hey, next week is Native American Homicide Day. or Oh, wow. Okay. Hmm. And he who curses his father or his mother shall certainly be put to death. So this ain't even laying your hands on them. So just having a desire to lay your hands on them. Hmm. Man. Whew. Man, that's serious. And I know me myself, I had that I wanted to lay my hands on my father. He wasn't really a part of my life. And so I was very angry with him. And see, that's one of the things I don't think we even realize that slavery did to us. It showed us how to disenfranchise our relationship with our parents. Um, the fact that he was not there and he didn't handle his responsibility as a father, I had much anger towards him, but still I have a responsibility to still honor him as my father, because without him I would not be here. No, he did not do his job, but it is not for me to hold judgment against him. That's for Yah. But of course, I put my mouth on him. Yes, I thank Yah that he forgave me and allowed me to move away from that. But I wasn't promised a long life of a long life. I'm only 48, and so that's still not a long life. But what I put my mouth on him to say could have easily ended my life earlier than now. And I know people want to call a lot of fathers deadbeats and stuff like that, but a lot of mothers need to watch on how they train their children to speak negatively against the father, because it may cut their generation, their lineage short. That child may not produce the next generation, or if they do produce the next generation, it may be a cancerous cell basically to their lineage. Okay. And when men strive together, and one strikes the other with a stone or with his fist, and he does not die, but is confined to bed, if he rises again and walks about outside with his staff, then he who struck him shall be innocent. He only pays for the lost time and sees to it that he completely is healed. Mm. And when a man strikes his male or female servant with a rod so that he dies under his hand, he shall certainly be punished. Now, that's pretty interesting. You basically hurt somebody, cause them to lose wages. You got to basically take care of their wages. You got to be Aflac for them. You know,
Mm-hmm. You need
that's
to
pretty.
read.
Huh?
Yeah. This is important too in the context of the last law about men striving together, because of course if they die under your hand, they're still a man, so there's a penalty on their life. That's why it says he shall certainly be punished. And then in the one before it says, if he rises again, walks about, he'll be innocent. Innocent in the sense that he's not going to be put to death for having killed a man. He only pays for lost time, sees to it that he's completely healed. But you kill your servant, they die, they're still a man. So you will still be put to death. That's the
Oh,
difference. That's the difference between the what do you call it? Transatlantic and the chattel slavery, right?
well, it says right here though that a man, when he strikes his male or female servant with a rod so that he dies under his hand, he shall certainly be punished,
Mm-hmm.
not put to death. But if he remains alive or a day or two, he is not punished, for he is property. And when he
So look,
so
look at that.
punished, is he put to death?
Well, here's the thing. What's the punishment? It says it right there when men
Yeah.
strive. But look at this. There's two cases. There's one where it's under his hand, and then there's one where it's an extended death or he dies after a day or two. But under his hand, the phrase under his hand literally meaning that he has struck him and he is dead basically with him above him, more or less, like under his hand type deal. He dies
I,
under his hand.
makes sense to
And
me.
and
Go ahead.
the punishment is what we need to determine here. The punishment is what we need to determine. Is the punishment death? And the question would be, why would the punishment not be death? Because the man or woman that you struck as a servant of yours is still a man or woman. See the previous law: two men strive, and you strike him. Oh, let me get this open on my own as well.
They
But
still Zion. They're still daughter and sons of Zion. They're still
exactly,
Israelites, and you can they're the image of Yah. You cannot treat the image of Yah any way that you choose to. You
mm-hmm.
you have to treasure him like he treasured him. So
Yeah,
yes,
for real.
I I
Even
I
within
I,
servitude,
I agree. I agree what you're saying. I'm agreeing.
most
Definitely.
time,
But
man.
it's definitely not something that people want to hear. They basically feel like they can do what they want to, how they want to, when they want to. We don't value life. We don't value the image of Yah. I know this has nothing to do with the context of what we're talking about, but we look at how they deal with abortion. Abortion is
Yeah.
basically saying it's my body. I can do what I want to. And it's
Mm-hmm.
like, there's a life there. That's not your
Yep.
life.
You're gonna get to a case that's kind of not abortion, but relatively similar. Relatively similar, not in the sense of intent, but in the sense of what actually happens in terms of a seed dying. In later part of Exodus 21, maybe the actual next one.
It's
Yes,
right
the
there at
next law.
22, I do believe. It says, and when men strive, and they shall smite a pregnant woman, and her children come out, yet there is no injury, he shall certainly be punished according as the woman's husband lays upon him, and he shall give through the judges. But if there is injury, then you shall give life for life. So that life
Yep.
inside the womb is counted as a life.
Yep. Yep.
The people, they don't want to hear that. The life inside the womb is counted as a life.
Oh wow. Oh shoot.
Eye for eye, tooth
Hey,
for a
keep
tooth, hand
going.
for hand, foot for that life
Uh-huh.
in the womb is counted as a life. So when people always use the commentary that say when a person gets in an accident, they run into somebody who's pregnant, that they get double murder, or if they do something and it kills the woman, the baby, they call it double murder. So right now, it lets you know that is a life in there. That even though the legal parameters of this wicked earth try to say that, oh, it's not life until it's birthed out the womb, a life is a life.
Yep. Life's a life.
Yeah.
Yep.
Burn for burn, wound for wound, lash for lash. You know, when you
Yep.
take it, when you do an abortion, what they do, they tearing off limbs. They be,
Exactly. Ah, gosh. Yep.
they have a foot, they have a hand, all of these different
hmm
things that they're destroying. They cut away at the neck or whatever. They do all of these things to a body that's coming out. It's not like nothing comes out. They have something that they throw away.
Yep. Most times sees it, man.
Mm-hmm. 26. And when a man strikes the eye of his male or female servant and destroys it, he is to let him go free for the sake of his eye.
hmm
Yah in the service of, well, I'm doing it again. Never mind. Uh, I'm gonna do it anyway. When you serving as an oracle of Yah, the lame ain't supposed to be there. You just done made this person lame. They
hmm
can't serve. You done made them lame. Took
hmm
away one of their eyes. We're oracles. We're seers, and you done took away one. Let them free.
hmm
Let them free. They basically, no. You shouldn't have them in service anymore.
hmm
Well, yeah. And if
Look
he
at the
knocks, oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
look at the degrees too. Exactly, like the degrees of severity of the strife. Yeah, the strife has to be very, very intense for a man's eye to get knocked out, right? But then we read 27. This is
Go ahead
how
and read it.
crucial it is for the
If
Most High. If he knocks out the two of his male or female servant, he shall let him go free for the sake of his two. His two.
his tooth.
So now I'm just thinking about this in the context of chattel slavery, man. And this is why I really have people or really encourage people to go in and study the literature because it's not the same thing at all. It really is not.
Not at all. George Washington took slaves' teeth to make his
Yeah,
false dentures.
exactly.
I'm like, come
Oh
on.
my gosh, I was
I'm
really
like,
trying to think of
and left
something
them
too.
alive after, come on.
Oh my
I'm
gosh.
like, you're saying if he knocks out your teeth, I'm like, come on, I done been playing, running down the stairs and lost a tooth.
For
I'm like,
real.
so you can the slightest of violence towards a person, you can knock out a tooth. So he basically letting you know you're not supposed to mistreat your servant. That
Exactly.
not your brethren or sister that you put in service. You're not supposed to mistreat them. So because if you just smack somebody, you can knock a tooth out. We are not supposed to mistreat one another, even when we own when they're giving up our rights. As far as going into servitude, we're not supposed to mistreat one another.
hmm
So if you're saying this for a servant, you think you can smack your wife around? I know it's some Hebrews that be talking about, man,
Wow.
you're supposed to discipline your wife and stuff like that, some crazy stuff. I'm like, come on, she my servant.
Craziness.
I'm like, it's some foolishness out here. You know, some of these brethren of ours, brethren by the flesh, are saying they don't have the ruach whatsoever. But
For real.
no,
Because the
we're not
Ruach will
supposed to.
let you see the intent of why the Most High is giving these laws. They can't see why the Most High is giving these laws. They can just see it on paper.
They just want to. They just want to own something, want to have control over something. You know, they've been under control of something else. Something else has had control of them so long that they just thirst and fiend for a level of control. They
Yeah,
want
for
to
real.
abuse control just like it's been abused against them, and that's wickedness. If you just want to
Mhm.
just reciprocal or turn the tables completely, that's evil. You don't
Mhm.
have Yah's heart. Yah is not. He doesn't deal with us in anger like that. You know,
Mhm.
if he was about his anger, we would have been gone.
Yeah,
Been gone.
exactly.
You
Says
know,
that.
we ain't supposed to. That ain't. It's some emotional men. They always want women is emotional. No, it's some emotional men out here wanting to do some stuff that just has no bearings on how Yah operates. I get it. Esau, I'm gonna get him. I hate Esau. It's like, come on. Well, y'all hate Esau. Yah's hate is nothing like man's hate.
For
Nothing
real.
like it. It's not the same. Just like his love is not the same. Come on, they don't get it.
Yeah, they
But
really don't. They're low key sleeping on the Most High too. Because if they think that Yah hated Esau the way that they be hating Esau, man, that Yah is not as powerful as they're making him to be. Because Esau would have been wiped off the planet by now. If it was like how you guys are making it. But Most High is very merciful, man.
very, very. Because if you be honest, he didn't make the covenant with Esau. He made the covenant with us. And
Exactly.
so if anything, why would he be merciful with us? Because I'm like, everything that we've done is worthy of judgment. Is worthy of
Yeah.
punishment. We know we'll complain and say, well, we're overjudged, that it's a little too harsh. But if you didn't do anything wrong, nothing would have happened. No judgment would come your way. When you do something wrong, you open yourself for judgment. You don't get to dictate and tell, oh, what well, that's not what should happen. That doesn't make sense. That's too much. You don't get to dictate. If you do what's right, then you get blessed. If you do what's wrong, you get cursed. It said up to death, and so you don't get to decide what kind of death is that. You get death.
Yep.
Yeah. All right. And when go to 28, and when an ox gores a man or a woman to death, then the ox shall certainly be stoned, and its flesh not eaten, and the owner of the ox is innocent. Hmm.
hmm
Hey, once an animal has tasted blood, I don't. People be loving dogs and stuff like that. That dog done bit on a child or something. It's gotta
Yep.
go.
Yep.
I don't,
For real.
I like to eat animals. If anything, I ain't for pets. But if a pet bite my child, I want it to go. Period. I ain't. You don't get a second chance. Humans can get a second chance. Animals, no, it's gone. It's gone. That's me. They up there
Yeah.
stoning the ox. They're saying they ain't
It's
gonna even
life
let
for
it be.
life.
They ain't gonna even let it be food. They say,
Yep.
mm-mm.
Nah, I cannot. Cannot. It caused the loss of life. And the life
Yep,
is in the blood, right?
yep. It's like, however, if the ox was previously in the habit of goring, and its owner has been warned, and he has not kept it confined so that it has killed a man or a woman, the ox is stoned, and its owner is also put to death.
hmm
See, that makes if when you see these pit bulls, if your pit bull been chasing the postman, he been biting on folks. You ain't dealt with this thing. You ain't been a good steward. You've been irresponsible. You need to handle that. You need to handle
hmm
that. Whew. That's serious. Okay. You got something to add, or I'm gonna keep reading?
Nah, you keep going.
Okay, 30. If a sin covering is laid upon him, then he shall give the ransom of his life, whatever is laid on him, whether it is has gored a son or gored a daughter. So that man who owned that animal, that gored a person, he could basically probably buy himself out of it. According to his right ruling, it is done to him. If the ox gores a male or female servant, he is to give to their master 30 shekels of silver, and the ox is stoned. So servants could be paid for. And when a man opens a pit, and if a man digs a pit and does not cover it, and an ox or a donkey falls in it, the owner of the pit is to repay. He is to give silver to their owner, and the dead beast is his. So basically, since it died, you got to purchase it.
Mm-hmm.
And when the ox of the man smites the ox of his neighbor and it dies, then they shall sell the live ox and divide the silver from it, and also divide the dead ox. So it sounds like they might could eat this one. You know, ox takes that sounds like a good meal, but okay. 36. Or if it was known that the ox was previously in the habit of goring and its owner has not kept it confined, he shall certainly repay ox for ox while the dead beast is his. Hmm. Well, we gonna ran through these there. That was a good little run through,
Yep.
but that's pretty interesting. You know, I know many people who've had pit bulls and stuff like that. I don't really see them. They if you got it under control, you done trained it. It could be a good dog. I know people with aggressive chihuahuas, stuff like that. Little bitty dogs. Me myself, I don't want to be bit by no animal. I don't care, even if it's a little nip. I want it. I know I'm not nice towards animals because I've been the one that stumped it out. Maybe I'm being mean. People love their animals. I can't stand when people be all up kissing them animals and stuff. Let me stop. Oh, that's my baby. No, let me stop. I probably offended somebody out there, so my apology. I ain't trying to offend nobody. oh, oh man, people love their animals.
Not many
Well,
of our people doing that.
brother Robbie, you got any thoughts?
Hey, listen, man. Bottom line is, man, Most High's commands, His laws, His judgments, His right rulings, they're a different page than what the world is on. And in order to get clarity, get understanding, we need to study them. We need to study them in context of our history as a people. My brother or Rabbi Quaker is actually just speaking on it. Studying the laws in context of our history as a people, and also seeking to apply these laws and the principles of these laws in our lands in captivity. We are able to apply them. A lot of people say that we're not able to, that we're in a new time, and that we don't use sheep and ox and horses and different things. But we can apply these laws, and when you read them, you'll understand why. So hopefully the Most High was able to open some hearts, edify some people through, this dialogue. All esteem to him.
Definitely, because I definitely see it as when you injure somebody, you could actually come out of your pocket and help them.
Yeah.
They off work. They're gonna be struggling. You hurt them. That's something that right there is able to be done. But of course, people, oh, that ain't my problem. That's their problem. But the love of Yah say yes. Get yourself in motion and help them. You injured them. You injured them. You were a part of that. Take care of that. Even
Yeah.
when they look at the aspect of kidnapping, it's amazing how so many things have happened to us as a people, and we need to look at the scriptural aspects of it and see, like looking at the transatlantic slave trade, see that we were kidnapped and that there was not a judgment on that we seen. They didn't
Hmm.
get judged for their kidnapping. They didn't get the death that's supposed to come to that. So, to say that
Yeah.
America is blessed, I hear more melanated people say that America is blessed a lot of times than Caucasians. How can this land be blessed when we know that this land kidnapped a whole slew of people?
Yeah, man, you gotta go get them to Habakkuk what is it, 2:12? Woe to him who builds a town with bloodshed, who establishes a city by iniquity. Behold, is it not of Yahweh, Yah of hosts, that the people labor to feed the fire, and nations weary themselves in vain? For the earth will be filled with the knowledge of the glory of Yah as the waters cover the sea. So it says woe. It says woe right there. In Hebrew, oi, oi. Woe to him who builds a town with bloodshed, man. In other words, death, destruction. So there's no way that it can be blessed. It's not possible. Not of Yah. Can't be blessed of Yah. Now we know that Hasatan in what is it, Matthew 4, Luke 4, offered Messiah the kingdoms of the earth. And so, I mean, they could have the kingdoms of the earth, but still not blessed of Yah. Not of Yah, man. And like I said, they're laboring in vain because all that slavery they got us for now, all that labor is about to go down the drain when the kingdom gets established on the earth.
I know I kind of played it safe by just going with where we at, because there are some laws that some people will not accept, and I honestly believe as Hebrews we have to accept them all, every single one of them.
We do.
But I already know. I'll be messy sometime, and I'll deal with the polygyny laws and stuff like that, as well as the laws dealing with adultery and stuff like that. And I wish that people would actually do the research themselves instead of having to kind of prick at them and talk on these things, because even though I don't agree with the things in my flesh, a lot of times they're right there in the text, and the application is there, and what's really said is there. And I know that people don't want to apply it to today, but he is the same yesterday. He's the same in the future. He's the same right now. He's the same. And so his laws have not changed. I get it. I do agree that some things are not expedient for right now, but that does not make it still not a law. And so, eh,
Agree.
I was tempted to touch on some stuff today, but I was like, nah, I'm gonna play it safe. But I still bringing it up anyway. But I just want to show some of the laws, because I do believe that in this day and time, some of us still will say we're law keepers, but in actuality, we're still cherry picking. We'll selectively choose what we'll do and what we don't. And yeah, many people will keep majority of the laws, but there are certain ones that they say, nah, I'll never do that, or I'll never respect that. And I think that's a problem, to have that in your heart, where you're basically saying, if y'all say that on this situation, I won't stand on it, I won't touch it. I'll touch on another one. I've seen many mothers that have been sold out to Christ as Christians, but then they have a child that's homosexual, and they'll justify that situation of basically, oh, he was born this way. And so if you say that he was born that way, you basically have to me condemned Yah, or
Mm.
put a charge against Yah, to say that he's made something that's an error, or a mistake, or defiled, or perverse. You blaming Yah for something that he said that is against against his will, that he calls an abomination. You saying he created that person like that? That that's kind of off. But
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And absolving themselves of any guilt too, because it's a nature versus nurture situation. Either they, born in that state, or there was a set of circumstances that influenced them to be in that state, much of which would have to do with you as the parent, but you wouldn't want to accept responsibility, and a lot of parents don't want to accept responsibility.
accountability is something that is definitely lacking within our community. You know, there is definitely a push for matriarchy over patriarchy, and that's been going on for a long time. That's something that we need to be held accountable for. Also, like we spoke on earlier, this thing with honoring the father. Yes, I get it that there have been a lot of fathers that's been absent from the home. Blessings, blessings. But even with that, you still have to give them a level of reverence, a level of honor, because they are still the person that made it possible for you to be here on earth. You know, you don't have to agree with how they live their lives, but to disrespect them is still uncovering yourself. You shouldn't do that.
Agreed.
But we're not taught that.
Yeah. Even the cursing father and mother thing is normal in a lot of households nowadays. It's really upsetting. And of course, there's a example that's set. A lot of parents curse around their kids and different stuff. But the level that it's at now and the level that it's like the order is just completely out of charge. And so when a command is given or when there's order that needs to be brought, it can't be brought because it's not being done the way the Most High wants to be done.
I ain't gonna hold you. Sound like you finna get ready to eat. You know, tell your wife we said hello. My wife is waving and saying hello to her, even though you can't see her. And
Absolutely, brother.
let's
Hold on
go
one
on.
second.
Huh?
Wait, hold on. Let me just show now. But this time, you get the little snippet. It's telling me, what is this? Shepherd's pie? What's shepherd's pie?
What you
So we'll
say?
see what shepherd's pie. She's making
Shepherd's
right
pie.
now
Oh,
with
shepherd's pie. Okay.
what's called the string beans, the corn, the beef, cheese.
Oh, okay.
No potatoes. Yeah,
Mashed potatoes on top or
exactly.
whatever.
Yeah.
Okay. Enjoy your meal. Well, let's go. You know, let's end it out. You want to close out the prayer?
Yeah, absolutely. I got you, brother. I got you.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll close this out. Hopefully, Most High give us the words to say. Father, blessed are you always and forever. Thank you for giving us this fellowship that you've allotted for us, even just virtually. For this time that you've allowed us to speak on your judgments, we thank you, Abba. And Abba, we pray that you would give us the wherewithal and the wisdom to meditate on your judgments going forward, that these would not just be words that were spoken over the video, but that we would actually contemplate them and seek to apply them to our daily lives in order to please you, Abba. We pray that everything that we do in your sight would be pleasing to you. We know that your sight is all throughout your domain, the earth and the heavens, which you created for your own esteem. So Abba, we pray that all who were watching this video were edified, that you would give them understanding in all the things that we do, that you would bring us back and allow us to fellowship again if it be your will. Hallelujah.
Yeah. Shabbat shalom. Enjoy your Sabbath and tell your wife again. Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom, brother.
All right.